It's just been a very fluid situation from the beginning in terms of, and it goes really back to the original guidance that came out from the Secretary of Defense on what were accepted activities, what weren't, and then employees that were in direct support of those activities and those that aren't. Now, we have employees, all of the employees that we have back, not all of them are in accepted activities, which really creates a set of problems for us, because even though we have the people back, with the lapse of an appropriation, we don't have funding authority to conduct operations, purchase parts, consumables, enter into contracts. So that's where it really becomes difficult for the agency. Let's take, for example, if it were someone in maintenance.
Okay.
Once they go through all of the repair parts that they have on hand, if it's a non-accepted activity, then we have no vehicle in place by which we can get replacement parts.
Okay.
Now, if it's an accepted activity, then there is a mechanism that allows us to get parts or goods and services for those accepted activities. So you could have, one installation or one entity that certain parts of it can do that and others can't, and so it becomes very difficult to manage. Accepted activities are those that deal with life safety and protection, directly related to life safety and protection of property.
Okay, gotcha. So that's why the 190th is able to...
Certain aspects of it. Okay. They've had about a 40% degradation of their capabilities, but they have certain aircraft, certain operations that are in support of accepted activities, so they're allowed to maintain normal operations for that aspect, while perhaps other operations that they have may not be. And we have that as well, throughout the state on the Army side, as well as the air. Well, if you're in an accepted activity,
right, then
you can enter into contracts, you can buy repair parts. For example, like the 190th may have a couple of airplanes that are dedicated to an accepted activity for the Air Force.
Okay.
If they need to buy repair parts for that, they can do that.
Okay.
But if they have 6 other airplanes that aren't tied to that, once they go through the repair parts they have on the shelf today, they don't have the authority to buy.
So then those mechanical technicians wouldn't have any work to do?
They wouldn't have repair parts to put on. It doesn't mean they wouldn't have work, because there's always more work than what we have time to do, and it may be, in many cases, what we like to say is that they may take and spread that out enough that they can work on, maybe it's inventorying sets, kits, and outfits that they normally don't get a chance to do. Maybe it's going through and doing upkeep and maintenance on the facility that doesn't really require repair parts to do or supplies, but they can do that they may not normally have opportunities to do. Maybe it's updating safety aspects that they may or may not have a chance to do. Maybe it's going through and updating regulations and correspondence that they always have more requirements than they have time to do. So this gives them, in many cases, gives us an opportunity to do that.
Gotcha. But you'd still rather be training?
Well, it is for those people that are there. Now, again, our drilling status airmen and guardsmen we're not even bringing them in for drills, so they don't even have that opportunity.
Right.
Gotcha. It's difficult in many cases to assess that. Every day that the shutdown goes along, we continue to degrade what we call individual readiness and unit readiness. And from a unit perspective, one of the fallouts of this last 10 days has been that we've had to cancel our normal weekend drill, which is for the majority of the folks that we bring in on the Army and the Air National Guard side are traditional guardsmen. So it means they have a full-time job someplace else, and they come in usually one weekend a month and for their annual training.
Okay.
our weekend drills are not an accepted activity, so we've had to cancel our weekend drill for many of the units that were scheduled to drill last weekend, the first weekend in October, and now this weekend. And so while we will reschedule that for later in the year, it's a lost training opportunity if they had an exercise that they were going to participate in, or if they had a major training event, or if it was even individual training that was going to be conducted. Those are lost training events that really get at our overall readiness. And that's probably my biggest concern, is that it's the lost readiness, both from an individual soldier airman perspective as well as what it does to the unit capabilities, because the longer it goes on, the more degraded our capabilities become.